Hello, everyone. So, literally everything in this country, you have to fight for. And what I'm talking about in general, one thing I want to particularly mention, is to do with the young children in Cavan and Monaghan. And I said this before that only one child in the last 4 years has got the assessment for special needs and disability assessment. And this is terrible, of course, because they're entitled to it within 6 months, and it takes over 6 months. In some cases, nearly 3 or 4 years for them to be seen to. And everything has to be fought for. The same in college. You had to fight for special needs. Say, for example, myself, being dyslexic, you had to fight tooth and nail to get any resource at all for dyslexia. Now, you hear Norma Foley in the West and said, oh, there's money in this and this, that, and the other. But even in national school, secondary school, there was no resources given to me. So they didn't have the resources in the first place to give it to anybody, first of all. So yeah, you have to fight for basically everything in this country. It's the same with people getting their pensions and stuff. They have to fight tooth and nail. People get older, people getting bus passes, other stuff. They have to fight tooth and nail, and there's no need for this. There's no need for people, Irish people particularly, that have worked all their life and lived in the state, and their families lived in the states. It's they've been here all their just beginning of their family. Hundreds of years ago we're talking about. And then somebody from Pakistan or Timbuktu can come in here and get everything handed. It doesn't make any sense in that regard. But anyway, that's besides the point. But if they can get it handed to it, of course, the Irish people should get it first instead of people from other countries getting it. They're not entitled to it. But long story short, everything in this country you have to fight tooth and nail for. And it isn't right. There's elderly people I know have to fight for every inch, to get every penny they have in the pension, because the government doesn't know what to give it to them. And the same with bus pass, the same with medical cards, the same with everything. It always has to be a big fucking fight to get it. And this country in general is just always a big fight to get anything, especially if you have additional needs, special needs, that kind of stuff, disabilities, etc. You have to fight tooth and nail. It's the same with disability payments, it's the same with sick. So it's the same with everything. You have to fucking go through hell and back to get anything, to get what you're entitled to and to get what you deserve if you're in situations like that. And the whole system's just there to fuck people over and just to make people just sick and tired and not bother to look for it. Because that's pretty much the whole system in this country. Just defeat people, make people feel worthless, make people feel disingenuized, etc. And that's probably by design, because obviously people who are disheartened, I suppose, in the way, they can't cause a big ruckus for the government. They can't maybe lead uprising, etc. Because they can't do that because they're disheartened with the whole system. Because the system in general would dishearten anybody dealing with the system. And I know about the system. The system itself should be destroyed. It's just no addition. It's just not there for anybody. It's there for people coming from on planes, etc. from Timbuktu. That's what it's there to help. But it's not there to help only Irish people. But the simple truth is, it shouldn't have to be this way. It shouldn't. I think everybody would agree that it shouldn't have to be this way. That literally even for small things, people have to fucking go through hell and back to get it. It's ridiculous. It's the same with voluntary groups. They have to go through hell and back to get the slightest funding. I even heard of a group. It's a voluntary group. They do CPR training, etc. And how to use medical kits, etc. And it's a voluntary group. They get the day funding, etc. for showing, because they do go around and show schools, etc. Schools and colleges, etc. Only people too. And it's a good thing to learn. But even at that, they were looking for, I think it was a €2,000 grant for extra equipment. And sure, Jesus Christ. You think they were looking for the moon and the stars. But it's such a hassle to fill in multiple forms. It's just too much bullshit, the whole system. And for the bit of equipment they were looking for, about €2,000 or worth. And I know that sounds like a lot of money to people, but in all grand scheme of things, it isn't that much. It took over a year and a bit for them to get it, and multiple forms, probably hundreds in this case, forms to get it signed, and it's just bureaucracy. It's just there to stop people from looking for anything at all, because these people shouldn't have to go through. They're not getting paid. They're doing it in their spare time, and they had to put up with all that bullshit just for equipment worth €2,000 or so, and then just to say they got equipment to themselves to fundraise themselves for other equipment that were worth more. So you can see why they were like, fuck it, why should we bother go near the state anymore for it? Because the state, left them there for a year without it, and basically give them hundreds of forms to fill in that were nonsensical and had no relevance nearly to anything at all in a lot of cases. And it was just bureaucracy. That's why it was just bureaucracy. And being fucking arseholes. That's pretty much the summarise it all. But what I'm trying to say is the state is out to get people really in that regard. That they simply don't want you to ask for anything. They want you to own nothing and be happy about it. And that's just a simple thing. And again, we shouldn't have to live like this. Simple as that, we shouldn't have to live like this, where you have to fight tooth and nail for everything, literally everything. Like quite literally, somebody being dyslexic, I don't mean to make it all about myself, but just saying for people with special needs, you have to fight tooth and nail for everything. Everything. Every little thing you have to fight tooth and nail for. And it shouldn't be this way. It's hard enough living life the way, say, if you have dyslexia or autism or other special needs, or even additional needs, disabilities, etc. You shouldn't have to live half of your life fighting for everything. I know even people in your entitled to this through the local authority, like for handrails and stuff like that in your toilet. If you say, for example, have a disability, etc., the state will pay so much towards it, a lot of it, pretty much in a lot of cases, depending of course on your income, or even outside your house. When you're going up the stairs, etc., they're supposed to provide a handrail, and the state to cover a good lot of the cost. But sure, even that alone, they have to fight tooth and nail for it. Even people looking for wheelchairs and stuff, that they fight tooth and nail for it. I know somebody was looking for a wheelchair, and the state wouldn't give it to them. Simple, I wouldn't give it. They had to go off and get the money themselves. The state wouldn't give it to them. And mainly because it took so long. They left them for so long. They left him for 6 months, even though he needed the wheelchair, and they didn't get him back to it 6 months later. There was no ever explained why he didn't get it. They just said he didn't get it. That was it. Go and suffer yourself. We don't care. That's basically what the state was telling them. And the HSE, we just don't give a shit, basically, to deal with you. It's the same with even elderly people, with home care assistants, etc. A lot of the money get it once a month in some cases. Some get it maybe in the mornings for about 10 minutes, and then maybe 10 minutes in the evening. Like, basically, and these people, a lot of these elderly people would have worked since when they were 14, in some cases 10 years old. And they walked their way, and they walked and paid their way all the time, paid for everything. And they get 10 minutes maybe in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. Great stuff. And these people built the country, the Irish state that we live in. Some respect, just to say, some respect. But again, even for that care, even for them few minutes of care and stuff, they fight tooth and nail for it. Even my own father, for example, when we was talking about bus passes, etc., even though he's a pensioner now, he's in his 70s, they fight tooth to nail for a bus pass. Even the only time he'd be using it now when he's going into town, or when he's going to the hospital for an appointment up in Dublin or anything like that. Which isn't probably once in the blue moon, and maybe be used twice a month, basically, at most. But the other fight, and he's entitled to it. He worked all his work since he was 14. He's entitled to it. But long story short, the amount of hassle, it took nearly 3 or 4 months to get it, because they were arguing back and forth about it. The state, and they didn't want to give it, and they just refused to give it, even though it says by the law they're entitled to it. The state just wanted to cause a big ruckus about it. And basically just make a big issue out of it for nothing. Again, it's a simple bus pass. There's asylum seekers coming in here and getting it handed to them without even knowing their names, and they're coming in and just getting it handed to them. So I don't know why. And he lived all his life, never walked anywhere else in the history. He stayed here all his life. It just goes to show you. But what I'm trying to say is, it shouldn't have to be this way. It shouldn't have to be this way, that you have to fucking argue for months to get it. You would eventually get it, because the only reason why he got it, because I drove them mad, the Beatolians of the state, and they just were like, fuck it, we couldn't be bothered to deal with him anymore. He's arguing too much with us, because I just kind of put them on blast, and they just didn't want to deal with somebody that's going to argue with them. See, there's all this fear tactics too from the state. They try and make you be afraid. Oh, don't question us, etc. You could lose your job. Oh. I couldn't give a shit. And I think they knew that. So they found out who I was, I say, and they were like, oh, fuck. I just couldn't be bothered to deal with this far-right extremist. But yeah, that's probably what happened. But anyway, let me know what you think. But anyway, everything in this country had to fight tooth and nail for, which isn't fair. I think everybody can agree with that. But anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more and bye.